Okay, it appears as though we have a quorum. Good morning, everyone. The Neighborhood Development Committee is being called to order. Madam Clerk, will you please take roll?
Yes, Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Murphy, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Gunther,
Here.
Alderman Oldenburg, Chairman Cone,
Present.
6 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I just want to take a moment to thank my committee members for coming to my inaugural meeting as chairman of the Neighborhood Development Committee. I'm looking forward to working with you all this session. We are actually now putting out the sign-in sheets, so if for any of you that would like to speak on a bill that's being presented today, either in favor or in opposition to that bill, if you could please sign in so that we can make sure that your voices are recognized at this hearing, I'd appreciate it. I would also like to welcome back to the Board of Aldermen our Sergeant at Arms, Terrence. Thank you for joining us and coming back to be in our illustrious presence again. It was very exciting news to hear that you want to come back. So with that, we have about 6 bills that are on the agenda for today. The committee members, I hope, got my email last week with most of them and the board bills and the appendixes that were attached to those. I do see 2 of the sponsors present today. And Alderman RODDY, if you wouldn't mind, I'd prefer for Alderwoman Ingracia to go since she only has 1 bill, if that's okay. Okay. Alderwoman Ingracia, we're going to hear Board Bill number 41.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I have handouts. Board Bill 41 is a 5-year tax abatement at 2607 California in Fox Park. This is the southeasternmost portion of the neighborhood and has been a problematic block. There's been a number of shootings and even murders over here, a number of nuisance properties. The last time this home had an occupancy permit was 1992. The taxes are currently about $300 a year. And DeSales Community Housing Corporation took this project over, used CDA gap financing to rehab it, along with some of their own equity. And I'm asking for a 5-year abatement on the project. Happy to take questions.
Now, did SLDC provide the photos for the project?
You should.
Does everyone have a copy? Okay, great. All right, so we'll go ahead and take questions. Alderman Moore is not here at the moment. Alderwoman Howard?
Is this I'm sorry, at the end of this handout you just gave us? At the end of the handout you just gave us is I just got it, so it's kind of hard for me to, is this how it impacts the fiscal, this is the fiscal note?
Right, yes.
Okay.
SLDC has been, I believe, Jonathan Ferry preparing these for us in neighborhood development.
So over the term of this tax abatement, it'll be $12,392 that
Now,
will...
Zach, do you mind coming up? I want to make sure that it gets explained correctly.
Yeah, it's interesting that we've gotten this, and I just kind of, looking at it for the first time, I'm trying to make sense of it. You want to?
Zach, do you mind using the microphone? Thank you.
Okay.
Zach Wilson, SLDC. This is the impact on the taxing districts. For those 5 years, this is what will cost the taxing districts. So anything over a project under $1 million, me or Michael or Dale will be running these numbers. Anything over $1 million, John runs a separate set of numbers.
So
Foregoing those districts, $12,000 basically is the impact.
excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Oh,
in
I'm sorry.
order. You'll have your opportunity to.
okay. Now, this is a 5-year tax abatement?
Yes.
Okay. So, but you've done the numbers for up to, for 1 through 5, 6 through 5 also?
That's an error on the Excel spreadsheet because usually it's a 10-year, so that's why it's a little error in the formula there, but the numbers are correct at the bottom, the 12,000.
So the 12,392 is what it costs everyone, the
Correct.
the total
Correct.
amount of revenue.
Also. We don't know what the assessor will come out later to assess it, but we're adding a value to those improvements and what the sales price will be for that home. So we're estimating that cost.
So it's an estimate of what each one of these taxing
We'll lose.
will lose over that time. Okay. Which, and that's over 5 years.
Over 5 years, correct.
Okay. Okay, that's all. This is really good information. Thank you very much for doing this.
Alderwoman Hubbard? No question. Alderwoman Murphy?
No question.
Alderwoman Spencer?
My apologies, Mr. Chairman, for coming in a little bit late here. My house alarm was going off
Oh, no.
to return home.
Hope you don't get a fine.
Everything is, apparently, we've had a lot of break-ins over the weekend, so I was a little concerned. So it looks like the total value of this tax abatement is $12,000, so I guess it's a fairly low amount considering what we normally view here. This is a 5-year. I'm sorry, I don't have any questions at this moment. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Alderman Gunther?
Yeah, so I went and looked at this project over the weekend. I guess you are right next to a gas station, service station, which might make it a little bit more hard to market, but you do have you have a sale pending on this that I saw for $190,000, which we'll get into later, I guess, but I am hesitant to be giving abatements to projects that have sales on them, but I guess kind of looking at this project, you said that it was kind of one of the more distressed areas of Fox Park. I
That's
guess.
correct, and this block with specificity has had a number of issues for at least a decade.
Okay. I think I'm good.
Okay. And just for future reference, if we vote these bills out of committee, this is the only opportunity to actually ask questions of the sponsor unless you decide to question her on the floor of the Board of Aldermen with regard to the board bill. So if you do have any other questions, I'd recommend you do it now in committee because there will not be an opportunity to bring it up at a later point in time unless it's on the floor of the Board of Aldermen.
You can ask me questions about it anytime.
Okay, well, true, off the record. Alderman Oldenburg.
Yeah. No questions, and my apologies earlier for speaking out of order, Alderwoman.
Okay, and I have no questions, so with that, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill number 41.
So moved. Oh, I move that we pass this, do pass recommendation.
Second.
Great. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll? There's a first and a second.
Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Murphy, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Gunther,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg,
Aye.
Chairman Cone.
Aye.
7 aye votes do pass.
And with that, we pass out Board Bill 41 to the full Board of Aldermen.
Could I
Out of committee.
address one question from Alderman Gunther? As you know, you all have been off for elections, et cetera. And so I don't know if it'll apply to any of the others, but it may well be the situation on this one in that projects that came in,
Hey, Dale,
you know.
would you mind just explaining who you are for those
Oh,
of us
sorry,
that may not know?
Dale Ruths at St. Louis Development Corporation.
Thank you.
Projects that, applications that came in early this year, a number of them didn't have an opportunity to get approved before you all went out for elections and all. And obviously, developers can't just sit around and wait. And so you will, like this is one of them, but there may be others that are further along than we all might want it to be when we have a public hearing. But because of that long break, it just kind of works out that way. And you'll find the same thing when you come back in September, that developers over the summer will have been working, and you might find some that are further along than we want. Obviously, we don't want the project to be finished, but sometimes they're well along.
Yeah, thank you, Dale. And that's actually a point that I should have made with Alderwoman Ingracia. We had a conversation. This was actually a tax abatement that started in last session, and then when we went down for recess, it obviously it died, and so she resurrected it in time for this session before someone's occupying the property. Okay, with that, we'll move on to Alderman Roddy's board bills. We'll start with board bill number 20.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could, before I actually get into this, as I think you're aware, as I know you're aware, you and I have been talking about some of the discussions regarding incentive reform, and we're hoping to have a cooperative relationship with this committee, and particularly with its chairman, as we go forward on that. We're taking up that issue in the HUD's committee later this month, so we'll be having a couple of meetings scheduled and beginning to do some work on that. Within the 17th Ward, we've been very fortunate, as I believe most of you know, that we've had a lot of development occurring in the last couple of years, and we have been probably systematically reducing incentives in our ward for over 10 years now, beginning in the central west end portion of the ward, and now just recently we've got actually about 2 or 3 years ago, we began reducing them in the Forest Park Southeast portion of the ward, and we're taking the next step down and beginning to reduce them as well. So over the next few months, as bills trickle in, some of them were started on last year and are seeking 10-year tax abatement, which we were using in Forest Park Southeast for smaller scattered site type of developments. And as you'll see today, we're starting to see some bills come in with 5-year, which is what we've started to do beginning of this year. So the first one before us is for 1301 through 3 South Boyle, and this is actually seeking 10-year tax abatement.
Okay, we'll take questions from the committee. Alderwoman Howard.
Alderman Roddy, is this a renovation or is this a ground-up build?
I believe this is
Construction. Okay, I
new
see.
construction, is it not?
Okay, yeah, I see that. So the total cost of this is $600,000, and they will be $350,000 apiece?
That's my understanding as I
Okay.
look at this.
Okay. No further questions, thank you.
Okay. Alderwoman Hubbard.
No
Alderwoman Murphy.
No question.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Excuse me. So if I understand correctly, these are 2 single-family homes anticipated for sale, each sale being $350,000?
That's my understanding.
It looks like a great project. I guess I'm having a hard time with a sale price that high. Is tax abatement a necessary component of the development plan?
Obviously, we've had a long-term strategy for the Forest Park Southeast neighborhood. Beginning when the alderman from the 16th was an intern out there, we began with
Must have been a long time ago.
Yes.
Excuse me.
He worked in the neighborhood for, at that point, it was Forest Park Southeast, the Development Corporation. And we had a great number of vacant buildings. We still do have a considerable number of vacant buildings in the 17th Ward. I think last count I saw was over 200. And the plan was that we would begin taking a lot of the vacant buildings that were in the area and using LIHTC, low-income tax credit programs. We've created in excess of over 200 units now to provide affordable housing for residents in the ward. We are in the process of adding an additional 50 units, so we will have over 250 publicly supported affordable rental units that were put in the area. But the goal is eventually to go ahead and increase the values within the area by making the community nicer, land values go up, and hopefully tax revenues go up with them. You have to understand that 25 years ago, when we were doing development in the area, in addition to tax abatement, we were also getting block grant money. So a typical project 25 years ago would have had 10-year tax abatement, and 50% of the value of it would have included block grant money. We haven't been using block grant money for sale projects out there for a number of years now, and so now we're entering in the latter phases of this. But the goal is to go ahead and eventually get higher value homes there, given that we've already provided some additional housing for some of our lower income residents. And to do that, these home prices are considerably above the neighborhood average at this point, so there's considerable amount of risk involved for people that are buying them.
I guess my concern would just be that when you have such an expensive home, well above the average home sale price in the city, I think it will necessarily raise the tax liability on the surrounding block, but not contribute to the increased tax liability of the neighborhood for the 10 years that it's abated.
Agreed,
So it has
for a 10-year time period, but hopefully we're building a neighborhood that'll last 50, 100 years or better. We're experiencing the same thing over in the Botanical Heights at this point, Alderwoman. We have over there, we provided 10-year tax abatement for 150 homes in Botanical Heights for the last 10 years. They were, tax abated. A lot of the money went into infrastructure and so forth, but now those homes are rolling off a tax abatement, and, the typical tax bill over there is, in the $4,000 to $5,000 range, whereas the citywide average for the average real estate tax per household in the city is a little over $900. So, at some point, these homes will probably be paying 5 to 10 times, 5, 6 times the average.
I commend the strategy with the multiple fronts of affordable housing and encouraging, at market, or, very nice above average house sales. So that does it for the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, wonderful. Alderman Gunther.
Yeah, thank you. So this one I do have a few questions about because it's introduces 1301 through 1303, which are 2 new construction homes, correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
But then it also has 1309 and 1311. So kind of my question is, this Board Bill 20 is to abate 4 houses, each one of them? And then to kind of follow up with that, then for each one of those 4, is it $95,000 we're losing for all 4 of them, each one?
My name is Brett McMahon. I work for UIC. So this project was a little weird. So 1301 and 03, and then 09 and 11 were all on one application. But due to some confusion throughout the application process, it was recommended by Michael Griffin that we only apply for 1301 and 03 right now. And then when it gets further down the road, we can introduce 09 and 11. So that's why on this, what you guys are seeing is a little bit confusing. When I noticed that with the handout as well, how it's introduced only as 01, 03, and then 09 and 11 are left off.
But it's still on the board bill, so.
Yeah.
So that was one of my problems with it. Another one of my problems with this project is that, it was brought up earlier that because we were in break that some things have progressed forward, but is it not true that both these projects are sold?
Yes, they are.
And sold for like around $330,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
To kind of explain further on this, Park Central approached us in 2015 to develop the properties. In September of 2015, we went in front of the neighborhood committee at Park Central, and it passed, and it was also saying that they supported the 10-year abatement. During that time, we, progressed further down the line. It was December of 2015, we were able to finally get the consent from, to get the actual contract. From there, we had to go through all the title issues, sort all that out, and then I believe in May of 2016, we were actually able to purchase from the LRA. From that moment until August of 2016 is when we went ahead and applied for the tax abatement. I sent it in. For whatever reason, when it was submitted, the approval letter from the Board of Aldermen, or from Alderman Roddy, ended up never making it to Michael Griffin at SLDC. So then, when I talked to Michael in late 2016, in December, we finally got the letter from Alderman Roddy to Michael, and we were told in January they would get presented in front of the LCRA board. It was passed and approved, but due to the reset, to your guys' recess, is being presented now. Sorry, it's kind of a long timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, but,
And if you guys, I actually have some pictures of the lots before they were developed. I don't know if this will help or not. And if you know anything about the streetscape over there,
it was a nice garden.
by that picture, it's not very well maintained.
Weedy.
Yeah. Most, your average home values across the street are around 80,000. And they're all shotgun style houses.
Any other questions, Alderman?
I guess not so much of a question, just as, yeah, I think, yeah, okay, there is a question. So to SLDC, 1301 and 1303 is the bill on your financial impact. It says impact of $95,374. Is that for each one of them, or is that for the two of them?
Two of them.
So 95,000 is the two combined?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then 1309 and 1311 are pretty much just like wiped out of this bill. They're not
Correct.
included.
There should be nothing on
And
the bill.
I went through there's nothing in the board bill that refers to either one of those. So, is that all, Alderman?
Yeah, that's gonna be all.
Alderman Oldenburg?
No questions.
Okay. So I want to, I have a question myself, and then I want to recognize Alderwoman Howard. So I have a question in terms of the abatement. Obviously, we've covered, the property's been sold already. Is that part of the sales contract that you all have, that, the abatement is included? So even though they're either under contract or sold, as part of that sales contract, it recognizes that there's abatement as part of that agreement.
Yeah, we were, based on it going through Park Central, we were under the impression that the tax abatement was good.
Okay. Okay. And then Alderwoman Howard.
I'm a little confused, and I know this is probably a minor detail, but there's like two different plots here. One's 1301 is on the corner, and then 1303 is an L-shaped property behind it, and then another one shows them, I guess it's the 1309-11 piece.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we're abating just the 1301, 1303
Correct.
today?
Yes.
Okay. And your company is
UIC.
UIC?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask another
Okay,
question?
that's all the questions I have.
All right.
But we're not abating the other property today.
No, the board bill 20, is only for 1301 and 1303. There's no language in the actual board bill itself that pertains to 1309 or 1311.
You'll be back with that, I guess, at another, in the future.
Okay, and Alderman Gunther.
Thank you.
Just because that was brought up, then my question is, so since you've sold a house with a contract that says you're getting a 10-year tax abatement that you don't have, is there something in the contract to be able to pay that back if you don't get it?
Yes.
That was it.
Okay, thank you.
I move that we pass Board Bill number 20 with the do pass recommendation.
I'll entertain a second.
previous role?
And,
I'm going to vote no.
okay, there's an objection to previous roll. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Gunther.
No.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Chairman Cone.
Aye. And with that,
I vote, 1 no vote.
Board Bill 20 passes out of the committee. Board Bill number 21, Alderman Roddy.
Yes, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, Board Bill number 21 is for 4427 Chouteau, and this is a business that we are bringing in from, I think it's St. Charles, but let me pass this out. At the, by the block, on the block bounded by Highway 40, Newstead and Taylor, there formerly, many years ago, were 2 gas storage facilities, gasometers. And my grandfather and great-grandfather worked at those gasometers, so it's kind of a little family history there. But we are able to secure a developer for that. We were working on a developer back in 2008 originally, and with the economy that fell through. And then beginning in 2013, we had a 150-unit apartment complex built there, as well as a small hotel. And actually, that was the first large project south of Highway 40 in the Forest Park Southeast neighborhood. And when we did that, that was the first project that we began trimming back on some of the incentives. This project, this particular building is at the historic pumping station. And the pumping station has sat vacant and boarded up now for many years. And so this is an opportunity to go ahead and bring that back to life. We are bringing in, and I'm sorry, I forgot all the details. Perhaps someone can help me. How many jobs are going to be brought in with this?
Full-time
20 to
jobs.
40 jobs,
Yeah.
I believe, from I believe St. Charles, but it's an interesting company. It's Greater Good Holdings, and one of their employees is actually going to be moving into the area as well.
Okay, let's take some questions from the committee. Alderwoman Howard.
Alderman Roddy, I think I've read a little bit about this Greater Good Holdings. What is it they do?
Gosh,
Does anybody?
it's kind of a technology-based company, isn't it?
Right, it's an IT company, but I don't know more specifically than that.
Okay.
Do you represent? Okay, I apologize. We haven't met.
So, could you please come to the microphone, because some of the committee members can't hear, and also we're being recorded, and so the folks watching can't hear the banter going back and forth between the gallery.
I'm actually not here to speak about this project, but it just worked coincidentally, I guess. So it's a
Could you
product-
introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Sarah Mirth. I'm married to one of the members of Greater Goods, and they work on product development with tech connectivity, so connected home devices.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. All right. So this is, Alderman Roddy, this is the old station that used to be, that ran those tanks, those huge tanks
Right,
that were out there?
so those, they would
The big
fill,
gas
they
tanks.
would fill them up with natural gas,
Mhm.
and they would expand,
Mhm.
and then the weight of the tank would compress them,
Compress it.
and then they would pump
Drive
them
the-
through all the gas pipelines throughout the city then.
Okay. So this was the place that housed
That was
the-
actually the pumping station itself. and,
Okay.
You know, the technology is
Okay. Okay,
reduced
well,
them.
that's a good thing, getting it back up online. So, when we do this, now, they pay the taxes on the original value or the value of the building, and then any improvements are abated, correct?
That's correct. So they'll continue to pay taxes based on the existing values. They'll be
Okay.
frozen for a period of 10 years, and then at the end of the 10 years, they'll pay the full taxes. In the interim, as they come into the city, we'll be bringing jobs in that pay earnings taxes, payroll taxes, hopefully pick up some sales taxes, and we're actually starting to pick up.
Okay, and what revenue was the city getting off of this building
Prior,
prior?
I don't know what the existing tax bill on it would, but it would
I mean,
probably
was
be
there
a
any
pretty,
revenue?
it'll be a pretty nominal amount.
Was there revenue, were we getting revenue from it, or was it
Well,
belong-
we would have got, the city would have gotten its share of the real estate taxes, but the real estate taxes on a vacant building like that would be pretty
minimal?
nominal.
So, was it a city-owned property prior? Was it LCRA?
No,
Okay, so the gas company did retain ownership of this?
We actually had a developer in between
Oh,
the gas company and this one, so,
so the taxes are being paid at the
Taxes will bring-
unimproved rate?
correct.
Okay, thank you. I think that's important to know that there is value to these tax abatements, even though,
Yeah, and I might add that if it, but for, I wouldn't say but for, but certainly the role of Cortex being down there and its brand as being a technology center is,
bringing
I don't
in-
want to speak for them, but they had advised me that that was one of the reasons that they were particularly interested in
coming to this
locating
area.
that area.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Roddy.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Murphy.
Yes, Alderman Rhodey, is the property's vacant now, is my understanding?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's just paying that minimal amount for the vacancy?
Correct.
So the city really isn't losing anything, we're just postponing perhaps some, future tax within the 10 years?
I would argue that we're actually making quite a bit.
I agree,
because
yes.
all the earnings taxes that'll be paid and
Right.
the other taxes that we'll
Right.
be picking up.
Yes, I understand, thank you.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you. Between Alderwoman Howard and Murphy, my questions have been answered.
Alderman Gunther.
So looking at the assessor's office, we had, last year, they paid $5,140 in taxes. So we're essentially saying that for the next 10 years, they're going to pay $5,000 a year on a $1.98 million project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So again, we have a revenue problem in our city, and I know that we're bringing jobs, I know that we're developing a property, but for anyone that hasn't driven by there, did you say there was a 150-unit apartment surrounding this building
That's correct.
and a hotel?
Small hotels been put in as well, yes.
So it's a pretty desirable property, you think?
I think it's gotten to be.
Okay. Do you know anything about where it says here that, right now we're abating the $1.98 million renovation, but then at the bottom it says 12 to 14,000 square foot proposed three-story building? Is that something? And again, that's on this.
I think there's a small addition they're going to make to the building. So it's all one building.
Okay, because, yeah, it says that it's 5,500 square feet current in the building, but then underneath that it says 12 to 14,000 square foot proposed three-story building. So is that an addition they're building, or? Okay. And then I guess my final question. Yeah, if you don't mind.
So my understanding, there is no major addition. It's within that building package, I guess. They're looking to put additional floors in if they fit. Yeah, the only additions they've discussed is fire stairs to code, so.
So you're taking the existing building, you're putting a three-story addition on it?
I think they're putting mezzanine floors within
Gotcha.
because of the high ceilings.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and then my last question, I guess, would be for SLDC. So we just received this paper that says that the total impact is going to be $139,000 that's what the package that we got here. But then there was another one that was sent out last week for the same address, 4427 Chouteau, that says the total value of the abatement is $634,000.
No, I saw, Zach Wilson, SLDC. The issue is the second one, John Ferry runs the numbers on projects over $1 million. And that second one you got, the one in color, is from John. So the other analysis is from us internally. Me, Michael, and Dale run a separate one that we got numbers from assessor to project losses.
So which one's accurate?
John drills down to earnings tax and all the other stuff, so that would probably be more accurate on larger projects, John's.
So this 139,000 is saying, well, if we get earnings tax, and if we get this, and if we get that, then
That's the,
it reduces it, but yet it's really a $634,000 impact.
we just went by the value of the construction, and what we assume the assessor will assess certain things that's where that value comes in. But John drills down even further than we do, so.
Speculating on earnings taxes.
Right.
Okay. So to me, that means we're losing $634,000 just on the building, loss of taxes on the building.
If the market continues to go a certain way and the assessor assesses the building a certain way, it could be possibly, yes, but that's a lot of ifs too. But that's what we presume on all projects, so.
No further questions then?
Alderman Oldenburg, sorry.
Does the same developer that did the residential units that kind of are on each side of this, are they doing this as well, or did they sell it?
I believe this has been.
They didn't ever own it. Oh, they didn't? No. Okay.
And it's currently owned by
Okay.
Another developer bought this many years ago, I'm sorry, I should have.
Yeah, if we could keep the banter in the gallery to the
Dale
podium.
Ruthsatz again. Another developer bought this years and years ago, thinking he was going to renovate it. He never did.
Okay.
And so it's a total separate project than what's around it. And then this then fairly recently has been sold to this company who's now going to renovate it.
Got it. Great. Okay. No further questions. Good project.
So, actually, Dale, if you could come back. I have a few questions.
Sure.
So, and I don't know if you're the appropriate person to ask these questions of, but has this building ever been residential?
Oh, no. No.
Why is it being assessed at a residential rate?
Well, no, I can't answer that. I'm not the assessor. Do we know it is?
I'm looking at the city's website right
Well,
now.
okay, so
and
it's probably,
currently-
I mean,
so it's
I do
paying
not
about-
know that
it's
answer to that
paying
one.
$5,000 a year in property taxes
Yeah.
based off of a residential assessment.
Okay.
And that resident, I mean, this building, and I mean, Alderman, you're probably more familiar with it than any of us. Has anyone ever,
There was talk some years ago of converting it into condominium.
but it's never
That's what the
actually
original
been-
developer was going to do,
It's
but no,
always
it's
been
never.
used for commercial purposes, and it has never been.
That's correct.
So, but it's currently residentially assessed, and it's at a $5,000. So, perspective for you, I have a property at Virginia and Bates that has a land area of about 2,000. This has a land area of almost 13,000. My property at 5530 Virginia, at Virginia and Bates, is paying $4,000 a year in property taxes on a commercially assessed property that's a fifth of the size of this property. So technically, they should be paying somewhere in the neighborhood of about $25,000 a year in property taxes right now, which they're not doing.
Well, I don't know what the condition of the building is at the property you're talking about. Is it in bad shape too?
I mean, it has the 1960s facade on it and hasn't been, significantly updated in the last 30 years.
But is it occupied?
It's occupied, and there's a commercial tenant there, yes.
Well, I would think
Now,
the
the upstairs
assessor-
units aren't occupied, and the upstairs units it's a mixed-use building, but the entire building is being commercially assessed.
Yeah, I understand that. I cannot answer that. I mean, that's an assessor
I
question.
guess my question, though, is why would we freeze this property at a residential tax rate versus a commercial tax rate? Why wouldn't we reassess it at a commercial rate, especially since now it's going to be a commercial use? It's not intended for residential use, as I'm hearing the board bill right now.
That's correct.
So why wouldn't we reassess this as a commercial use and then do the tax abatement on it?
Again, I can't answer for the assessor. I don't know how he'll handle it.
But once we pass this board bill, it freezes the taxes where they are as a residential assessment. The assessor can't come back after we pass this and say, oh, it's going to get commercially assessed, we're raising it up. It has to be done before the board bill passes, correct?
I do not know that. I don't know. Whether, I mean, I do not know if he has then the ability to switch over to a commercial assessment. I really don't know.
Is the intent of this board bill to freeze the taxes where they currently are?
At a pre-development, well, not the taxes, but the assessed value on the building would be frozen.
And currently the assessed value is based off of the residential rate.
No, the assessed value, the rate is added in after you have the assessed value. The residential rate is multiplied by the assessed value. The commercial rate is multiplied by the assessed value. So the assessed value is not going to change whether he would switch from a residential to a commercial rate. I mean, I do not know the answer to that question, but it's the assessed value that will not change, not the taxes that won't change.
Okay, but so are you saying that the assessor has the ability to change whether or not it's assessed at a commercial value versus a residential
Again,
after we pass this bill?
I can't, I do not know the answer to that
Because
question.
if we pass this out, my first memo is going to be to the assessor's office asking him to change this to a commercial assessment.
Okay. And if he has the ability to do that, obviously you can make that recommendation. I do not know the answer.
All right. Well, that's extremely frustrating for someone that lives at Virginia and Bates or does business at Virginia and Bates. I mean, I have no idea how long this property has been assessed. And again, I know this isn't directed towards you, it's the assessor's office.
Yeah.
But, that's extremely frustrating knowing that there's a massive building that's 5 times the size of one at Virginia and Bates that's being taxed at a rate that's only $1,000 more a month.
Yeah, I don't know when that occurred or why that exists.
Okay. All right. Well, are there any other questions of the committee?
I have, go ahead.
Okay.
I don't have a question, just a comment. I just think it's, of course, I'll support the bill because I trust the leadership of the alderperson, but I just think it's frustrating for us sometimes when there are these discrepancies and, people can't really get a handle on what's going on. You're seeing different numbers come from different places, and I mean, just this issue that the chairman brought up regarding the assessed value. I mean, it's an assessor's office issue, but it's like somewhere in our system, someone should have been able to catch that.
Well, why don't we, if I could, why don't I make a suggestion? I mean, certainly I don't think there's any intent, not on my part, nor on SLDC's part, to be deceptive in any of this stuff. I certainly, applaud the chairman for identifying that. My understanding is that you freeze the assessed value. When the use changes, you would go ahead and add the commercial surcharge, which ends up roughly doubling, the resident, it's roughly, ballpark double the residential rate. So why don't we just go ahead and hold it? And I would encourage you to go ahead and get clarification. You're going to have another hearing here in another week or two.
Now that yes, and now that I'm thinking about it, it might be helpful just to have the assessor here for these meetings, because it seems as that I've sat on this committee before as a member, and frequently there are questions in regards to assessed values that will come up, so it might be helpful to have
phone calls with them, and when you and I meet, we'll go through some of the other issues that have come up.
I would love that. If you're okay holding the bill,
you're going to have another hearing another week or two, aren't you?
I'd be happy
Mr.
to.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll just hold that over for the next.
Then we will hold board bill number 21 until our next committee hearing, and with that, we'll move on to board bill number 22. Are there handouts for Board Bill number 22?
Here we go.
Oh. Thank you, Alderman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is actually on a very, very thin corner lot. And it's for a single-family home. I guess they're going to do a one-bedroom beneath it, and they're seeking 10-year tax abatement. Is that right, a one-bedroom apartment that they're looking to rent out? Was this purchased from LRA as well, or is this an LRA lot? No? Okay.
Okay. Questions from the committee? Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderwoman Hubbard.
No questions.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Who was this purchased from? The city didn't own this lot, so some
So I guess it
private...
was private developer.
Private
A private
developer.
owner must have owned it, yes.
Okay.
Many of the lots over there just a couple years ago, we still have some LRA lots that are in the process of being,
Right.
we're reducing that inventory. So in many cases, the acquisition cost is actually coming back to the city.
No, it says here purchase price of $20,000 is pending, so it's not complete yet?
They have just recently purchased it.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all, Alderwoman? Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'm getting my bearings here. This is a new construction, two-family home? Thank you.
Is that it, Alderwoman?
It is for now, thank
Okay.
you.
Alderman Gunther.
This project is also finished now?
No, I don't think they've even started construction on this yet.
Oh, they haven't started construction?
Mm-hmm.
Other questions, Alderman?
No.
Alderman Oldenburg. No questions, Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to pass Board Bill 22 out of committee.
Second.
Previous roll.
Object. Madam Roll, will you, or Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Gunther.
No.
Alderman Oldenburg. Chairman Cone.
Aye.
6 aye votes, 1 no vote.
All right. With that, the committee passes the board bill out to the full board. Board bill number 22.
Yes,
Actually, we just did that. Board bill number 23.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as I said, we had a plan in our neighborhood, kind of hitting certain targets for when we began reducing various incentives of a variety of different ways. And this is one of the first ones that have come through seeking 5-year tax abatement as opposed to 10 years. As you and I have said or discussed, part of our challenge, I think, in the city moving forward with incentive reform is each alderman has had their own strategy for using incentives in their ward. And as you see me fumbling around up here, I actually have kind of set some broad guidelines and have worked with my neighborhood development corporations on implementing those. So as long as they proceed with certain guidelines, I don't necessarily delve too deep in them as long as they're within certain parameters. I think it's very important for us as a city to have a program, and then make that available with developers as developers access that program with a certain high level of certainty that we deliver what we encourage them to do. And as times change, we forecast and tell them that we're going to go ahead and begin changing the structure and then give them a certain amount of time to adjust to the new rules. As we, you know.
Alderman, can I interject? Do you have a handout from
Oh, sure, I
SLDC by chance?
apologize, yeah.
I know the committee usually likes to take a look at those while you're presenting, so.
Sure, I apologize.
Oh, no, you're fine. Thank you.
So as I was saying is we have one way of doing things in our ward, and many of the other wards have different ways of approaching this, and all of us, I think, are going to have different ideas about these incentives, but I think it's very important that we project a consistent approach to this so that we're not taking something away after a developer has worked a very long time to get their project put together. And so for that reason, we're hoping to go ahead and begin creating some sort of guidelines that our whole board can adopt and kind of live with. And once we adopt them, our hope is that we can all move forward unified. An example of how those incentives might work would be the historic tax credits. The state created historic tax credits for the purpose of fixing older buildings. People apply, and as long as projects meet certain guidelines, the state awards historic tax credits, and the state legislature doesn't vote on every project. So the idea would be is that we would begin establishing guidelines for when and how we use incentives, and then as long as a project goes ahead and meets those guidelines, then it would come down here, and we would, you know, more or less approve the project without a whole lot of changes in expectations. In our ward, though, the way we were doing things was 10 years, and then we had been cutting it back. This is actually across the street from or next door to a project. This is 4443 Oakland. The owner of this is actually one of the owners of the company that's moving into the area. And so they're acquiring this house, and they're going to be fixing it up. It is actually just a couple doors away from a project that was the first one that I did when I got elected alderman almost 30 years ago, and it was done with for sale incentive money, which included, they sold for approximately $70,000. They cost $140,000. $70,000 of block grant money went in it, and it was 10-year tax abated. So we are now seeing projects done with 5-year tax abatement and no block grant money. It's taken us a long time to get there, but we're seeing this being acquired by somebody who's moving in so that they could be close to where they work at.
Thank you, Alderman. Questions from the committee? Alderwoman Howard.
I see this is owner occupied, and the owner lives in this property now? Oh. So, are you Sarah Mirth?
I am, yes.
Glad to meet you.
You too.
So you live in this property?
I do not currently. We've
Okay.
started construction on it.
Okay, you acquired this, how?
We purchased it from someone who did occupy the property.
Okay, it wasn't a foreclosure?
It was a short sale,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay. So you're going to renovate and spend approximately $100,000?
Yes, and we've already gone over that budget based on tearing out and realizing what was there. So we found knob and tube, we found structural beams that are just missing. There were the original lead lines, lots of exciting things like that. So.
Things that no one would ever see.
Right, exactly.
Right, okay. Well, congratulations. I think this is wonderful. And this is east of Kings Highway, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Alderwoman Hubbard.
No.
Alderwoman Murphy.
No questions.
Alderwoman Spencer.
No questions.
Alderman Gunther.
No questions.
Alderman Oldenburg.
No questions, thank you.
I have no questions. With that, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill number 23.
I'd like to make a motion to pass Board Bill 23 with the due pass recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
And will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Gunther.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Chairman Cohen.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
And with that, Board Bill 23 passes out of committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Just as a heads up, we will be coming in with some bills that will I was hoping to get a comprehensive list. We're kind of going back and forth to identify which ones will be 10 years and which ones will be 5 years, and that's for the scattered site projects. But we're going to be kind of coming in with both of them here for the next, few weeks as we kind of complete the cycle of that. The plan is eventually for the scattered site to remain at 5 years in that neighborhood. When we have larger projects requiring structured parking, that are more than 2 stories and, commercial on the first floor and so forth, we would probably be seeking additional amounts. But hopefully before we get to that point, we'll have some sort of agreement hammered out that hopefully, Mr. Chairman, you'll be a participant in.
Wonderful.
Thank
you,
you.
Alderman. And with that, we will hear Board Bill number 19. Alderwoman Davis actually sent me a message saying that she's unable to present, and Alderwoman Murphy has agreed to do so in her stead.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Do you have a summary? I have nothing. I would like to introduce Board Bill number 19. It's for a tax abatement, at 3827 Shaw Boulevard. Do we only have this one copy? Oh, she's got it. No, okay. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Alderwoman is asking for a 5-year tax abatement.
Okay. Are there any questions of the committee? Seeing no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we pass Board Bill number 19. With
Hearing a motion to pass in a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll? Previous roll, is there an objection to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill number 19 passes out with a do pass recommendation. Okay, so we've heard all of the board bills today. I do want to note that Board Bill number 21 has been put on hold. Dale, if you can make sure that that's on the calendar for the next time, I'd appreciate it. As you all heard, Alderman Roddy was talking about incentive reform that certainly includes tax abatement. And so as we continue down that path, I definitely want to make sure that the members of this committee are engaged in that conversation. I know there's a number of you on the committee that are particularly interested in incentive reform. I am happy to have any conversations with you that you're wanting to have, and always appreciate it if you put your thoughts down in writing to share with me as well. But as we continue to move forward with tax incentive reform, I definitely want to keep you guys in the loop, as well as take any feedback that you all have relative to that, specifically as it pertains to this committee and tax abatement. I think as we've discovered today, there's a lot of things that need to be unraveled and discussed. And so, I am definitely open to having those conversations with you and look forward to having them with you. And with that, I will adjourn the Neighborhood Development
I
Committee.
make a motion that we adjourn the Neighborhood Development
There
Committee.
a second? Great. Thank you all. That
I'll
concludes
make
our business
just
for
one
today.
comment. There's probably going to be one more meeting required before you all go down for the summer. I think we're zeroing in probably on the 20th of June for that, and that would allow then bills to get through the board before you all recess for summer. So that's our plan, at least at this point. And so this one that was tabled would be put back on that agenda.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Dale.